Hello everyone. Today we are going to dive into one of the most essential skills for a programmer, which is debugging. In this case, debugging Python. So whether you're a beginner or looking to sharpen your skills, understanding common errors and how to fix them will save you hours of frustration. So before we start, let's talk about why debugging matters. So first, debugging is a core programming skills, as you will likely to spend more time debugging than writing a fresh code. Second is errors are a learning opportunity. Every time you see a red error message, Python is telling you something about how it works. And lastly, understanding why error happens help you to prevent them in the future. So, you all have seen this kind of error, right? So when you type a code, then a sudden error message appear like this. There is like syntax error, type error, attribute errors, and many different kind of errors exist. So we are going to break this down one by one so that you know exactly what to do when they pop up in your own projects. Our first error we will talk about is syntax error. This is an error that is first and most common. This happens when Python did not understand your code because it violates the rules of Python's syntax. So it's because the Python doesn't understand you. First, here we have a syntax error that expected a colon because in Python we always use colon every time we use if, for, while, def, and class. So for getting one like this, 5 is bigger than 3, it will come out a syntax error message. Second, we have a list of numbers, but we forgot to close it. So it will pop up a syntax error where the bracket is not closed because the Python is confused. And last here, we have an f string issue where even a small typo in the f string, like an unmatched parenthesis here, will stop your codes. So pro tip is to always make sure your code and brackets comes in pairs. And then next, we will talk about name error. Name error is basically Python asking, who are you? This error happens when you use a variable or function that has not been defined. Like here, we can see number equals 5. Print number, but it's a typo. But Python cannot fix a typo. It just seems as it's not defined yet. So it will be confused and have an error message. So you need to fix your error, your typo. It also not only works in printing, but it's also in a function. So if you write a different name, it will not understand you. So to fix this is you need to always define your variables before you use them and double check your spelling because spelling is an easy mistake, but it is very, very fatal as sometimes we won't notice it. Next, we have a type error. A type error is basically like mixing oil and water because this happens when we perform an operation on data type that doesn't match. So, like here, we have strings and integers. It doesn't work. We need to change the integer into strings. So it has strings add with strings. Here, we have a list and an integers. Similarly, you cannot add an integer directly into list. If you want to add it behind, you can use an append function. But if you want to add, you can use for x in numbers. This. So if a pro tip to avoid type error is using the variable type here, type. So you can check what data type you are working with if you're unsure. Next, we have value error. Value error means you have the right type, but it's a wrong content. Like here, we have integer 1. So every time you use an integer, it will expect you to fill in a number. But when you give 1, as in ONE, it will be invalid, as Python cannot change this into a base 10 number. And here, if we have this code and we input ABC, it will be invalid, as we cannot turn ABC into a base 10 number. Well, when we put in 8, it will come out perfectly. So to be able to fix this is you can use a try except blocks, so that when the user is inputting something that is not integer, it will not crash. So it's more safe. You can use a try except. And then next we have index error. Index error means we are reaching too far. So we see an index error when we are working using lists. So here we can see that the list is index 0, index 1, and index 2. But we are trying to access index number 10, so it's out of range. This often happens in for loops if we are using loops, because the range will be greater than the list. So to fix that, we can always use here lid to check the size of your list before assessing it, so we can understand the range of the list, the length of the list. Next, we have attribute error. Attribute error means the wrong tool for the right job, for the job. So, example here, we have a list of numbers. But then, we use numbers.upper, which only works on strings. So, it will come out an attribute error. Or the object has no attribute upper because it doesn't work on numbers, it only works on strings. So we can change it into using a string. This also happens in classes. So if you're trying to access a variable, like here, my dress.color, but it's not yet defined in here in init, it will come an attribute error because it's not yet defined. To understand and avoiding attribute error, what we can do is we can understand what methods belongs to each data type. And we can also check it using dir object. Next, we have unbound local error. It's a bit more advanced because this happens when you're trying to assess. A local variable is assessed before it is assigned inside a function. So it happens when you try to use a local variable inside a function before you actually assigning it a value. For example, here we have some scores, but we use plus and an equal. But before this function, here, we not yet assigned total equals 0, so it will have an unbound local error. So what you need to do is just use equal, or you need to write it here before, which is total equal 0. It goes the same as this, where you try to print name before you defining what is name. So you need to flip this. So name equal Alice, and then you print the name. It will work. So the pro tip to avoid this error is you need to initialize variables inside the function and also understanding the variable scope in Python. Last, we have here logic error. Logic error is the trickiest because the program will just work without giving us this kind of pinky purple words. So we don't know when the error happens. The program will run without crashing, but the output will be wrong. So here, if you write If score is under 60, it will pass, and else it will fail. So it's logically untrue, right? So you need to flip it. If score is higher than 60, then it will pass. And here we have range. So the total is it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then it will change into 2, and change into 3, and so on. Well, what we need is we want to add. So this is a logic error. So to try to avoid this logic error, what we can do is we can test your program with multiple different outputs and break the problem into smaller testable steps. So we need to test the programs with smaller steps. So every small steps, we need to test them. So in conclusion, we need to understand that debugging isn't just about fixing mistakes. It is also to improve our coding skills and be more confident. So by understanding these common types of error, we can improve our efficiency and ensure that our skills remain sharp. And also so that we are not easily replaced by AI. I guess that's all from me. Thank you.